in simple apprehension, there are going to be three steps. There's going to be that perception, where we perceive something with our senses. And then there's going to be that mental image that we have retained in the brain, really, the image. And then the third step is going to be when the intellect grasps the meaning of the thing. And when we say meaning, we mean it understands what that thing is. So let me draw a quick diagram. Okay, so the we have the knower. Does that look like a person? Okay, not much for the drawing. And then we have the thing. Uh, okay, we got the tree. Yeah, you see that all right? So we have the knower and we have the thing. We call this a tree. Whoops, I can't smell. Tree. So we have the thing out here. The light comes in and hits the eye, and we have the perception. That's the first step. The second step is we have the mental image. Now we have that tree in our brain in a certain way, in an image. And then when we understand, oh, I know what that thing is, it's a tree. We have the concept of tree. Okay, ready to deep dive into this? Okay, so outside of the mind, we have the real thing. This tree is real. And by real, we mean existing outside the mind. Real equals, whoops, existing outside the mind. You can see that. So the tree is real. It exists outside the mind. If I died, it wouldn't matter. The tree would continue to exist because the tree is real. The tree exists outside my mind. My mind has no bearing on the tree. The tree is just there. It's real. It exists outside the mind. But the light waves bounce off the tree, and those light waves hit the receptacle, the light receptacle, which is my eye. And the light hits the eye. And then because I'm a living thing and sensation is a vital function, it's a vital power. I'm a human being. I'm a living thing with the power of sensation. My sense kind of reaches out and grabs that image, the light that's coming into the eye. So it's not only an arrow that we like draw like this coming in, it's also kind of the eye goes out and grasps that. The eye takes the form of the tree and makes a little copy of it and puts it into the brain. And we call that the image or the phantasm, because this is the same thing for all the five senses. So like if I smell something like, pizza cooking, well, then I have the phantasm of the smell of pizza cooking. Or if I hear the doorbell ring, well, then if I can imagine the doorbell ringing in my brain, I would have the phantasm of the doorbell ringing. Okay, so all of that is actually purely brain function. We share that process with animals. So a monkey can do that, a dog can do that, a goldfish can do that. So this image that we have in the brain, we call that the phantasm. Phantasm. Like when we say, I'm trying to think of an example. A phantom, I think, like a ghost. People say, no, no, it's not real. It's just a phantom, right? Which means it's just like imaginary or something. Or like when people lose a leg or they lose a limb, they have phantom pain, which just means that it's pain, but it's only in the brain. It's not real pain because there's no real leg there. So the phantasm, it's in the mind, but it's not real. So this is not real. Because real is, right? Remember the definition? Real is existing outside the mind. That's real. So the tree is real. The image that I have in my brain, it's not real. It's there, but it's in my brain. So if you have, if you have a bad dream at night, your mom comes and says, "It's okay, honey. It's just a dream." It's not real, right? So it really happened, but it's not real because it doesn't exist outside the mind. It only exists inside the mind. Okay, so this process is completely material. Do you see how when I have the image in my imagination of this tree, I only have the image of this tree. This is properly what we would call knowledge. But it's only sense knowledge. So a dog, a cat, they can all do this. They can have phantasms in the brain of things that are real, that exist outside the brain. And so we can say that animals truly properly have knowledge, but they only have sense knowledge. Okay, so now this is where we leave behind all the animals in creation, and as human beings, we're able to do something which is completely beyond every created animal. Dogs, cats, chimpanzees, horses, elephants, the smartest animal that you can come up with, humans are able to do something that's completely different. So that's when we take the intellect, say intellect, and the intellect is now going to reach down and take that image, that phantasm that we have in the brain, and abstract it. So just like we had the external sense reaches out and takes that image from the thing that exists outside the mind, now the intellect, which is the soul, it's our immaterial part, it's going to reach down and take that image that we have of whatever that thing might be, and it's going to abstract the concept. This is called the process of abstraction. So this process of sense knowledge, sensation, where we sense the thing, all of that is material. A dog can do that, a cat can do that. Dogs and cats are wholly material. They're made out of matter, they're made out of stuff. But human beings are able to do something which is completely different, at a completely different level, metaphysically completely different, because we have an immaterial soul. And so our immaterial intellect, the knowing power of the soul, is able to reach down, abstract the concept of tree, and now understand treeness. Okay, Now, here's the difference. You might say, okay, well, what's the difference between having an image of tree and having the concept of tree? The difference is that the image of tree is particular. The concept of tree is universal. Okay, so what's the difference between particular and universal? If I have an image of this one tree, that's particular. Particular means I see that tree over there, or even when I turn away and I'm not looking at it anymore, I have the image of that one tree in my mind. Dogs and cats can do that. They have the particular. But when I'm able to abstract the concept of treeness, now I have a universal concept which applies to every tree. So you see how once I understand what a tree is and I abstract the concept of tree, now I know every single tree that exists because every time I see a tree, I can go tree, 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 tree. Now it's like once I abstract the concept of tree from this particular, now I'm like an expert in treeness. So every time I see a tree, I'm like, I know that that's a tree. Oh, and that's a tree, and that's a tree. It's like I'm super good at, I know I can identify every single tree now, right? Because now I have a universal concept of tree. Okay, so this is all the process of simple apprehension. The human knower is able to see this thing and understand, ooh, tree. This is what we call the concept. That's what we call the mental word. Oops. So now I have in my intellect, not just in my brain, but in my intellect, I have a universal concept. It's universal because it applies to every tree that ever existed, that ever will exist, and that you can find anywhere. I know what a tree is. No animal can do this. By the way, no computer can do this either. So with artificial intelligence and everything, it's not intelligence. Um, it doesn't have an immaterial intellect. It can't grasp a universal concept. In fact, in the chain of being, computers are actually lower than plants because they're not even living things. So computers, they don't even grow, so they're not even as developed as plants, or I shouldn't say developed. They're not as high in the chain of being as plants, and they don't even have senses. They can't even do this that an animal can do. They can't grasp the form of a thing. Computers can't even do that. All they can do is recognize patterns of ons and offs, zeros and ones based upon human input. So yeah, we don't have to worry that somehow artificial intelligence is going to become sentient and then want to rule the world. The next step that we're going to get to is because I have a mental word, because I've understood what a tree is, now I can apply a spoken sound to it. And that'll be when I speak forth tree. That's when I now say the spoken word tree. I'm going to call that thing a tree. And no animal can do that. Animals can become actually very advanced in sign language and stuff. Like it seems like chimpanzees can do that, but all they're able to do is they're able to memorize that when I do this with my hands, or when somebody does that, or when I sign something, then I get a cookie. They don't understand that this means cookie. So animals can't understand any meaning. And this here, the universal concept, that's the basis of meaning when we can understand what a thing is. So for example, if I hold up these two things, any human being can tell you these are the same kind of things. This one's a marker and that one's a marker. They're different colors, but they're both the same kind of thing. A dog can't do that. A dog can see one and it can see the other, and it's going to think, right, think, because dogs aren't actually thinking. But the senses are going to be interested to know if these are things that the dog could eat or not. Or, are they dangerous? No. Are they useful? No. The dog can't tell you that these two markers are the same kind of thing. But a human being can, because we have a universal concept of what a marker is.